to you by Barfoot and Thompson.
On the show today, we have the fabulous Rachael O'Sullivan to talk all things careers, recruitment, and that very special journey of getting a new job. Welcome to Property Matters. Welcome along to another Monday. If you're listening live, we're getting close to that fabulous Easter break. I can feel it around the corner. If you're tuning into one of our podcasts, well, I'm not sure what time of the year it is for you, really, but you can download them from Apple, Samsung, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or pretty much wherever you like to get your podcasts. And keep your comments coming in. We love it. Love reading your feedback. Thank you so much. Really important to us, so keep it coming in. Now, this week, we are going to chat all things in the recruitment space with the fabulous Rachael O'Sullivan, who is the head of talent at Barfoot and Thompson. Welcome, Rachael.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Now, on a Sunday night, I do an arts show, so I feel like the head of talent needs to be in there as well. Like, you could be doing sort of Sunday night, you could be doing auditions, Monday night, interviews.
I tell you, I would love to think I'm as talented as the title suggests, so we'll just go with that.
They've heard through the grapevine you've got a team that likes to sing, so maybe, the talent is all in the name.
Well, I think the team likes to sing. I'm not sure they like it when I sing, but yes, we sing for the joy of it, not necessarily for other people's joy, sadly.
Brilliant. Love it. So before we unpack sort of this career space, talk a little bit about your career journey. Take us back. When did it all begin for you?
Right, so born and bred Aucklander. There's not that many of us these days. We're moving off. But so yeah, born and bred South Auckland. Went to a Catholic girls' school in Otahu, and then really all those, in those days, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's all sort of a don't really know of many things to be, and I wanted to be a chef. I always thought that was going to be me. That didn't last very long, but I did stay in the hospitality, and I left school and did a diploma of hospitality management at AUT. So really, I'd waitressed at school, started to, your first kind of jobs, and just realised that people piece, the talking, the trying to make people have a nice night, is it an anniversary? What can you do to make things special? So hospitality diploma at AUT, and then, like every young Kiwi, for time immemorial, I went on my OE, which is why I find it so interesting when we're like, everyone's leaving. Yes, we all did it.
Part of it. Yeah.
And we all got backpacks and traipsed around the UK and worked for no money, doing terrible jobs, and promised we would never be poor again. So I came back to New Zealand saying that. I'd been waitressing in hotels in London. At one stage, I was silver serving spaghetti bolognese at a buffet.
Oh,
I know.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Is that top of your CV now?
Totally, it's something I bring everyone's attention to. Please hire me for anything. Or at least it shows resilience and perseverance if you can get that spaghetti onto the plate. So I came back and actually started a career in hospitality, got a job in hotels, was the Park Royal, then it became the Novotel, it's now the Movenpick down on the corner on Queen Street. I was a conference coordinator. So once again, just a real mix of detail, meeting people, finding out what they wanted, and I did weddings and conferences. So the weddings were fun, although towards the end they became a bit of a checklist. Do you want seat covers? Do you want soup? Do you want, and bish bosh bash, here's your wedding, off you go. And then I had some really, really cool roles. I had a job with Qualmark, so I graded accommodation around the country. So I was like 25 years old, had a company car, got to drive the entire length and breadth of New Zealand for about 3.5 years.
It's like the hotel inspector.
I watched
Did you get to stay the night in places?
A lot of them, yes, I did. And then towards the end, we actually started doing guest and hosted, which was the 5-star super lodges. So I got to visit some of those and stay at some of them. And in fact, I stayed at this one beautiful one in Christchurch, and I actually tried not to sleep because I just wanted to use all the, like, it has chaise lounge and different, 3 different rooms. So I had to sit in one and read a book, and sit in another one and drink the port, and sit in another one and eat the chocolate. I was just like, this is a world I would love to one day aspire to. It was really cool. Great job, but you are on the road the whole time, so it got a little bit sort of disconnected to friends and family, couldn't be part of things.
Right.
So then I went back to the hotels, and then I got a role with Tourism Holdings. So gone into the tourism piece. So it all sort of flows. It's still all these people. It's the fun. It's the, how do you make people have a good time. I was working for Tourism Holdings, organising motorhome convoys around the country for American and Dutch tourists. So if you've ever been stuck behind a convoy of like 5, 10, 15 motorhomes,
we can curse or thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah. The holiday park owners loved it when they got there, but everyone on the way. And I did itineraries in New Zealand and a bit in Australia. And then I was very, very lucky to go on a sort of a familiarisation tour with Emirates, and because we were doing tours in Australia, and I got to do a flight with them, and it was such an exceptional service, such a fabulous product. We got upgraded to business class, and so when I got back to New Zealand, after the trip, they happened to have a role available. I know, and it was just one of those right place, right time things. So, stick my hat in the ring. That the lady who had gone on the trip with us from Emirates put in a good word for me, and I got that role. So next thing, I'm sales for Emirates here in New Zealand for 3.5 years, and then I got a promotion into Dubai. So I got to live in the sort of middle of the mass of humanity. We had something like, I think it was 120 countries within an 8-hour radius of Dubai. Right. I could fly business class for about $300 return. Wow. So South Africa for the rugby on a Friday night, Denmark for a weekend with the girls, Wales to go to Cardiff Arms Park with my dad to watch the All Blacks. So it was cool. It was a really great opportunity. Met some amazing people, had some amazing cultural experience. There's such a melting pot, huge amount of Indian population, obviously a lot of local Arabs, but also Arabs from around the Middle East. So it sort of opened my eyes a little bit to the different cultures and the different religions, and I loved it. Absolutely loved that aspect of it. But it is a little bit of a bubble. It's a little bit of a, you sort of, what car do you drive? How rich are you? What shoes have you got? And as I mentioned before, Catholic girls' school from Otahu, that was not really what I was brought up with. Wasn't really interested in that sort of thing. So came home, and my sister, who is my biggest cheerleader, said, look, I know a lady in recruitment. Why don't you just chat to her and see if she can find you a job, and that will help you come home. And this woman, Jane Walker, turned out to be one of those sort of seminal people in your life. Little did I know, my sister had actually spoken to her and said, look, I really want her to come home, so can you find her a good job? I was like, oh, okay. So Jane sat with me in an interview, and I talked to, what have you done? You've done hospitality, you've done sales, you've done travel. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I'd love to stay in the sales piece. And she said, have you ever thought about being a recruiter? And I said, to be fair, this is only the second recruiter I've ever met, so I'll go with no. And she said, well, look, I think you'd be great. I think it's a great industry. You've got some real great opportunities. And I politely declined. I said, that's not really for me, thanks. I didn't really have a great opinion of recruiters. I was like, oh my God, look, as I say, it was only the second one I met, and she's fabulous, so I don't know what I was making my decision on, but I said no. Went back to Dubai because I was trying to get the salesman a job back here in New Zealand, and I didn't get it, and I was absolutely devastated, and was, everything that happens when you don't get a job. What's wrong with me? What have I not done? Who doesn't like me? I thought I'd had political capital in the company, XYZ. So Alan had told Jane that I hadn't got it, so I got another phone call. And I remember driving up the car park at Emirates, and she said, so have you found anything yet, Rachel? You little did I know. And I said, I haven't. She said, well, the job here is still available. She said, I tell you what, come home, do it for 6 months, and if you don't like it, we'll find you a job.
Nice.
I said, okay. And then 5 years later, a job came across my desk. So I went to H2R Consulting, and I did contract recruiting for 5 years. So contract recruiting's quite different in some ways because it's very fast. So someone will ring you and say, right, we've got this a lot towards the end of the financial year. We've got budget. We haven't spent it. I need an L&D contractor in 3 days to come in, build us a program, and that my HR team can implement. I'm like, great. And so it's lots of really quick phone calls. Hi, what are you up to? I chatted to you last month. Oh, you're still on that contract? Okay, great. Well, I'll chat to you later. So, and then you ring someone else and you just ring someone else. So it's a real sort of relationship piece. And that's a bit I loved. I got to know, people's life because it's a lot of chatting.
Yeah.
There's a theme. So that was fabulous and really enjoyed that. 5 years on the contracting desk. And then a job came across my desk, for the Breakers basketball team, and that was a sales role. And I thought, I've missed sales. I'll go back to sales. Didn't work out for various reasons. So with my tail between my legs, I came back to H2R. And once again, Jane said, and Lucy by this stage said, I tell you what, come back in on a 6-month fixed term contract. You're not happy. We love you. Let's see what we can do. And, and then if you want to stay, that's amazing. And if you don't, at least it's given you a bit of headspace. 4.5 years later, another job came across my desk. This time, one of the girls I work with sent me an email link to Seek and said, Barfoot and Thompson are looking for a head of talent. Do you know anyone who you think might be good for that? And I was like, me?
Brilliant.
Perhaps. I've always loved sport, huge rugby fan, and probably because of that connection, Barfoot and Thompson always sort of resonated with me. I've never actually sold a house in my life. I bought one through a sort of a family connection, so I've never dealt with many real estate agents, so sort of probably put them in the same category as recruiters before I was one.
Yeah.
But Barfoot and Thompson had just such a great reputation, and anyone who supports the Blues and the Mystics and the Olympics is going to be a fan for me. So I was really lucky to somehow talk long enough to convince them to give me a job, and I've been there for just over a year now. Just had my anniversary last week.
Brilliant. What does the job entail?
So I have a fabulous team of 3. Two of them work pretty much solely on the recruitment side of things. So that's posting ads for our different branch managers, dealing with applications when they come in, helping our managers understand what we're looking for, help with interviews. And then I've got another lady in my team who makes my eyes bleed with the amount of knowledge she has around learning development. So she leads our online learning system, which is called Ollie, and she creates content based on subject matter experts within the company so that our people can develop and learn. And if you're a real estate salesperson, you need to have non-verifiable hours, sort of continuing professional development hours. Right. And Roxana develops the content that sits on this platform, and as I say, terrifies me with the technological side of it. But in terms of a team, I've landed on my feet with sunshine and rainbows and some unicorns floating around.
That sing as well. Singing unicorns.
And singing. Well, actually, Jessie is a very good singer.
Excellent.
Me? Yeah.
So what are you seeing out in the market today? What's the state of play? We hear in the media so many conversations around employment numbers are low, there's not quality people, or you're getting hundreds applying, but many are overseas. What is the state of play that you're seeing?
And it is changing at the moment. I think we all know just after the post-COVID sort of 2021, 22, 23, it was crazy. Couldn't find a person for love nor money. People were paying ridiculous amounts of money just to get someone, and that caused quite a few issues actually, because you had people who were being paid more than their capability actually was, through no fault of their own, but people just needed someone, so they paid them a lot of money. That then swung away sort of for the last 18 months. we really noticed a lot more applications for roles of people who are really well qualified and probably applying for roles that were a little less than what they should get. But that hasn't lasted as long as people thought it would. So it's been this whole pendulum of candidate market or an employer's market. It hasn't been the employer's market that people thought it would be for as long as it has been. So we're already starting to see a little bit of a swing back. There are still people whose jobs are not around anymore, and that's very hard to see and to watch. But what we did notice this time, opposed to, say, the global financial crisis, was people kept staff a little more tightly than they have in the past in the olden days. In previous pendulum swings, they've said, we need to save some money, let's just get rid of 700 people. It's just going to be too hard to get those 700 people back this time. So it is starting to swing. We're getting a nice balance between quality and quantity. Sometimes you get huge quantity and not many people terribly suited for the role, and then other times you get no one applying, whether they're good or not. Now it's a little bit in the middle, but we've still probably got, I would say, another 6 or 8 months before it swings back. But I think that's really important for employers and hirers to be good employers now, live your values and be what you want to be now, because there's no use just trying to be great when you need someone, because you've lost a reputation by then.
Absolutely. Let's unpack both the candidate's journey and a recruiter's journey. And a recruiter could be, a recruitment company or somebody simply tasked inside a company to find the next staff member. Let's go with the candidate first. So candidate is preparing to look online and start that journey. What are those first steps that you recommend?
Sure. I think, there are some good trade job boards out there. Seek is probably the predominant one in the market. Trade Me, to a lesser extent, but for some specific roles, is a good place to look. So absolutely start with those. They're the easy ones. What I used to recommend to my candidates is don't only look at what jobs are actually there. Look at what companies resonate with you. As I mentioned before, Barfoot and Thompson really resonated with me. So think about, even if it's a finance role and you're in HR, if you see that Barfoot and Thompson are advertising, you think, actually, now that I think about it, that's a company that I want to work with. So sort of look at it reverse a little bit, and then you go onto the Barfoot and Thompson career site and you see what roles do they have, and that helps you sort of get a feel for what that company is doing. And
I guess you could sign up to alerts within those sites so that, the job might not be there today, but if you're not in a hurry and you like the values of that company, you wait.
Absolutely. And also, you don't always know what you want to be until you see it. As I say, I didn't know I wanted to be a recruiter. And jobs these days are starting to have a little bit more of a broader scope. So sometimes you will see a job that you think, wow, when I read that, those are all the skills that I have and those are the things that I enjoy. So I really do recommend people looking for roles, think of it that way. What are the companies I want to work for? And sign up to their alerts, see what they've got. And then that segues into LinkedIn. LinkedIn's becoming a really, really strong recruitment tool. So have a look, say Barfoot and Thompson, go online, go to LinkedIn, see, is there anyone you know who now works at Barfoot and Thompson? Connect with them. Connections are a huge piece, especially in a country like New Zealand, where, 2 degrees of separation at the best of times. And LinkedIn will tell you 3 people you went to school with work at this company. And you can just sort of use those and say, wow, I used to play cricket with Rachael and she's at Barfoot and Thompson. I should just reach out and say, is it as good as they say it is? Or those sorts of things. So use LinkedIn.
Should you look at your own LinkedIn profile as well, because others might be searching you? Very,
very much. LinkedIn, as I say, recruiters use it a lot. We used it a lot in agency. We use it here in Barfoot and Thompson as well. So people will judge a lot by your LinkedIn profile. Now, not everything is the whole story. We get that. But, you're scrolling through, you can go into LinkedIn Recruiter and create sort of what we call a project. And you can say, okay, all the HR people or all the real estate sales people or all the pub finance. And, I mean, some of the... don't have your LinkedIn photo sitting in the back of the car with your seatbelt on. Don't have it when you're bridesmaid at your friend's wedding. You look beautiful. Yeah. You really do.
Pop that on Instagram. Yep.
Exactly. We once had one of a gentleman in a yoga pose.
Oh.
It was a very impressive yoga pose, and it's not one but it's not the time or the place.
No.
To show off your yoga, unless of course you want to become a yoga instructor, but no, that wasn't what he was looking for. So yeah, look at your own LinkedIn, a good professional photo, and it doesn't have to be $1 million these days with every phone. Just a nice background, looking into the camera and smiling. Don't you can start looking at your own self. Well, my eyebrows, no one's going to judge you that much.
No, but they want to know you're real, have a personality, and a smile says a lot.
Totally, 100%. And then your information about each job, it's not your CV, so don't have bullet points. Just have a brief description of what were the key aspects of that role. So Rachael O'Sullivan, Head of Talent, Barfoot and Thompson, leading a team of 3. I focus on the recruitment and learning development as well as other key benefits that I can bring to the business, so that people will read it and just give them a little bit of a taste of, okay. And then because it has all your career down there as well, people can see your journey. So they can see where you've come from, and they see these transferable skills where they think, okay, so yes, she's in recruitment, but she's got a sales background. She's done aviation. She's done tourism. If perhaps, an airline wanted someone to travel the world in great accommodation and recruit people, then, they would know to call me. So really keep your LinkedIn short pieces, but not the bullet points. Someone asked me the other day, with LinkedIn, they've got a feature where you can turn on that you're looking for work. Is that only seen by recruiters? The fear they had is that their current employer might see it? So there's a couple of different levels of that. There is a feature within, you can go into settings, which says I'm open to in-mails or I'm open to someone messaging me. Those ones are only seen by people who have premium LinkedIn Recruiter, and it doesn't so much say Rachael now says she's looking, it just means I come up in searches. So if your boss was searching and you came up, you'd just be like, oh my gosh, that's because I'm perfect for the job, because I'm already doing it. There is also a little, what do they call those? It's a little green circle that goes around your profile picture, I think. Yes, I know what you're meaning. That says either open to hiring if you're looking, or looking for work. Some people think that one, the looking for work, but that makes me look desperate. And it's like, well, I mean, if you're looking for a job, you're looking for a job. And it could be, as you say, those connections of a connection that suddenly goes, wow, I trust that person, that's a friend or a colleague, let's check them out. 100%. Yeah. Or it'll pop up looking for a job and like, oh, I used to work with you, I didn't know you were looking. Yeah, great, let's have a chat. So I'm not averse to it's a little green thing. What about other social media? Should a candidate be checking out their Facebook, etc., making sure it's at least presentable profile picture? I mean, you can lock down so much more these days, so you can't get too far, but just make sure that home landing page is respectable. Absolutely. I've worked with some administrators. Part of our vetting process is to do a bit of a social media check, just to make sure we're not hiring someone for a finance company who once said, I hate all finance companies and I'm going to take them down. And she was incredible into how far into a friend of a friend's Facebook page was unlocked, and that person was tagged in their photos. So the smart ones are very good with the technology. And look, you don't live in fear, and you are still yourself. But and the little things, email addresses. If you're applying for a role, maybe don't use your chunky chicken KFC rules at gmail.com email address. Make up a new one, which is just first, last name. I think even getting ones that are still at Rocket Mail and Hotmail, you think, how modern are we in that space? Conscious of time, looking at
briefly the CVs. You know, what should a candidate think about with their CV and cover letter? We used to send our monologue of life. It used to be typed up, and it was, you kind of just added to it, and then it went through the photocopier. But now it's short, sharp, and simple, isn't it?
Not too short.
Not too short.
Not
okay,
too
tell
short.
us.
I would say usually the last 10 years, depending on how many roles you've had in that time.
Because actually, if you're in your 40s or 50s, we don't worry about School C anymore.
No.
You don't need all that content.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I used to say to my candidates, do you want to be a retail assistant at, Glassons? No. Well, then don't have it in your CV. Have the relevant pieces.
Gotcha.
So up to 10 years or 3 pages, give or take. Some people try and squish it all onto one, and there's not enough to talk about what you've done. So I would always say for each role, you have a couple of key responsibilities. So they maybe 3 or 4, 5 key responsibilities, and then key achievements. So people actually know what you did in that role. So my job, lead a team of 3, and then the achievement is developed into successful talent acquisition consultants who then took on further leadership. So show what you've actually achieved.
Should you tweak your CV to suit the job you're applying for?
100%.
Especially if you're applying across multiple industries.
Yes, absolutely. And move bullet points up. Like if you're going to be, if they've said in the position description, if their second bullet point is strong financial acumen, and you've got that down as your 4th bullet point, just flick it up the top, because people want to read the piece they want to see. So sort of 3 or 4, 5 key achievements and key responsibilities and achievements for each job. Very short piece about yourself at the top. I was never terribly interested in your entire family history. I'm the loving father of 3 children, 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. Great that's really important to you, but you've now spent 3 lines telling me about someone who's not applying for the job, and you are the one applying for the job. Down the bottom, interests, those sorts of things. Yep, that gives the recruiter or the hiring manager something to talk about when you come in. Cover letters. It's really interesting. Sometimes a cover letter can be of no interest whatsoever, and it doesn't matter. At other times, it's the most important.
See, I love reading cover letters. When people are applying to me, that cover letter needs to sell you to make me then read the CV. And that's why I say no one ever read a great cover letter and said, I'm not going to give you the job. They may give you the job without reading the cover letter, but if you have a good one, it can really, bring it home, and it can address the elephant in the room. Sometimes you can say, whilst I don't have the extensive real estate industry experience you are looking for, what you'll see in my CV when you get there is that I've traversed 4 or 5 different industries. So what I've proven is that I can learn quickly, and that just sort of makes them go, okay, so when I do read this CV, I can't just in my head go, no real estate, she's gone. It's like, she has done these different things. Are they compliance based? Do they have similarities to the industry I'm recruiting for? And if so, a good cover letter never does you any harm, that's for sure. Now we're coming to the interview. Do we wear the suit that we had to get out of mothballs because we wouldn't usually wear a suit, or do we present as presentable as we can but still be yourself, or should make an effort?
I have never thought badly of someone for being well dressed. Yes, there are very few occasions when you think, maybe I can be a bit overdressed, if it's suit and tie. But my advice is ask the recruiter, ask the hiring manager, try and get a feel for the industry. So
and the company dress code, perhaps.
Exactly. So go onto their website, because most companies will have a photo of them. And for example, if you go on the Barfoot and Thompson site, you'll see that even the casual ones, everyone's beautifully dressed and suited and booted in little pocket squares. So yes, for those interviews, you turn up in your suit. If the company website has the managing director standing at the front of a room in an open collar shirt and chinos, then dress for that. If you can't see anything, err on the side of dressing well, I would say.
You can always take the jacket off at an interview.
100%.
Yeah. And lastly, you get to the end of an interview and often the person hiring asks the question, have you got any questions? How important is it to get that bit right?
Yeah, For me, the question, it wasn't like if they didn't have any questions because there'd been lots of back and forth towards the interview, that's fine. I don't expect them to make something up and go, oh gosh, I'm going to have to ask it. What I took out of the questions was what was important to them. So if someone said, can you tell me something about the culture of the organisation, I would then be able to tell the hiring manager. So they were obviously very values-led. It was really important to them that the team's going to have a good vibe. If they ask the question about, so what are the shares doing on the, are they listed? It's like, okay, so this person's got a really insight into the business acumen, and that's the sort of piece that could motivate and drive them. So if you don't have questions, don't make something up. But do spend some time before you go into the interview. Once again, go into their website. It's a huge amount of, information on the sites, and just say, oh look, so they've got a new product coming up, or and be able to refer to that. And once again, the questions don't always have to be at the end. They can very much be, you've asked me what's my motivation. So can I say to you, what's the motivation like at the company?
When should you ask the salary question? Is it at that interview, or is it the next step if you're coming back for round 2 or an offer, or should it be before you've even turned up?
Yeah, I think, especially if you're working with a recruiter, this is the benefit, because you can have had that really open conversation. I don't think we should be embarrassed about asking the salary question. If you're worth $100,000 per annum, then you say, so I'm looking for around 100, give or take. People think, they'll then say, oh, well, we're only paying 90, so we're not going to give you the job. So yes, you can balance it with, I'm also interested in other benefits. What can you talk about that? But in terms of the actual question, when should you ask it? I think beforehand, because you can spend a lot of time and effort and emotional spend, and then find out that the role's never going to pay enough for you to pay your mortgage, or it's a $350K role and you're on $80,000 at the moment, so it's probably not the right role for you, because that's a really big step up. So I would always like to have an idea of what the role's paying before I get in. There should be a band, there should be some insight, but and
and that's also important, going back to writing that ad and making sure you're listing it on Seek with those bands. Make life easier for the people looking, so you're not getting people applying for a 70,000 role who want 140.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes we write the ads so fabulously. Oh my God, the most amazing, exciting job. There's some data coming out these days saying that more and more candidates really want to see the salary. They, as generations change, people are less seeing money as something not to talk about. There's a lot companies in Australia who are having mandatory you must explain what the salary is, and there's a few companies that try to say that you can be fired if you disclose your salary to your colleague, etc. But I haven't heard of much of that here, but they're really trying to push back on that, because it shouldn't. You need to know what you're applying for. Yeah, totally, at 100%.
Now we'll come back to the recruiter side if we have time, but I just want to sort of unpack Barfoot and Thompson where you work. There's a variety of roles. We immediately think salespeople selling real estate, but it's much more than that.
It's so much more than that. There's the support centre side of things. So every company pretty much, in the world is going to have HR, they're going to have finance, someone has to pay the bills, someone has to do procurement. So there's all those opportunities. So for someone like me who loved Barfoot and Thompson but no longer wanted to do the sales piece, I was like, yay, I still get to work for this awesome real estate company, but in my field in recruitment, there are the salespeople, as you say, and that's a huge, life opportunity. But then there's things like property management, which is a kind of like a gateway into it. You can really work in a branch, see what it's like, understand what the lives of a real estate salesperson are, and decide if that's the right move for you. But also, even within property management, we've got property management assistants, property managers, heads of property, and some of those heads of property are managing a huge number of tenancies, a number of team within their branch. So there's a real opportunity to sort of grow as a person. But then even, commercial real estate, I sort of, you don't really think of retail and leasing. There's body corporate, which is a whole nother section as well. And so there's a real, within Barfoot and Thompson particularly, because of our model, we've got just this huge opportunity to have a career that's not just step up. You can go sideways, you can do a bit of property management, go into sales, come back and do talent, and then become, our CEO is the old CFO,
right.
And he came and worked his way up through the finance team. We've got branch managers who started as administrators in the team and worked their way up.
A real career journey.
100%.
And you've got a website, which is careers.barfoot.co.nz, kind of that one-stop shop. You like people to apply directly on there if they've seen the advert on Seek? Like, what's that sort of advice?
And look, either or, to be honest, it depends on how many clicks you want.
Okay.
My advice would be, if you see a role on Seek, go to the company's website, have a look, see what the company is like, what resonates with you, and then seeing you're on their site, you may as well apply while you're there. But if you know them already and you've just been hanging out for it, apply via Seek. It's just usually a one or two clicks.
Brilliant. All right, we've only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to put you through.
You said this would happen.
I know. I'm going to put you through a quick fire round. Are you ready?
Ooh, okay.
Brace yourself. No time for singing. This is going to be fast. Recruiters, top tips if you're a recruiter on that journey.
Get to know your candidates, know where they are. And always get back to people. It's either an email if they apply, and if you speak to someone, you must ring them and tell them either the role's gone or that they're not successful. These are people at the end of this.
How do you work out if you have transferable skills? We've named that a couple of times today.
I think look at a position description or look at the job as it's advertised and take the title away and just say, strong relationship skills. Do you have that? Articulate. Do you have that? Ability to lead a team. Really sort of take away the defining factors and just look at the general gist.
And break down that advert.
Yeah.
As a candidate, should they walk in? I think of my daughter, she's 18 in Melbourne. She's applied online, heard nothing. Now she's done to do the walk-in with the CVs. Should we be doing that as well? Should we be ringing up after we apply, or does that become nuisance?
It's a fine line between the nuisance thing. If you drop a CV off, and I get some dropped off to me, there's very rarely a cover letter, so I don't know why. I had one lady pop in and she was amazing, and I actually forwarded on to a couple of branch managers. So be able to have an elevator pitch, have 3 or 4 lines of who you are, what you want, and why you've knocked on the door. In terms of ringing afterwards, I think if you've been interviewed, 100% you deserve a phone call, so be happy to ring them. If you've just applied, at least give them 3 or 4 days, because sometimes it does take a bit of time. But if you really want the role, a really polite phone call to say, hey, Rachel, I sent my application through, just wanting to follow up where you're at with the role. Nice. Photos on CV, yes or no? No. No? No. Why not? Because people shouldn't be judging you on what you look like, and they 100% will. Okay, interesting. AI, should we be using it to help us tidy up our CVs on our cover letters? I would say use it to start, and then tidy it up yourself. Be the last touch should be you. The last feel to it should be you, so people know who you're talking about. Don't use words in your cover letter that you don't know the meaning of. Yes. Making sure your CV's accurate too and clear. Yes. Very much. I remember one person coming in once and that said they were a painter, was their hobby. And I said, what sort of things do you paint? They just looked sideways at me and they said, well, like the wall of the house when we need to touch up. I was like, okay, it's not paint by numbers. Funniest story that you remember? Probably the man who halfway through the interview, we weren't bonding, but we were doing okay, started finishing his question as he stood up, and then just walked out the door. Didn't say goodbye, didn't... Your time was up. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Next. And so I was a bit nonplussed, but, clearly he didn't want the job I was going.
Oh my goodness. My funniest was once applying for a job and being asked in the interview to write a response to a government department about a complaint that they'd received. And I ended up getting the job and discovering that it was because my complaint response was the only one they'd ever had approved.
But they sent it off?
Yes, they sent mine off. And that's how I got the job. And I didn't discover till later that it had come out. Oh, Rachel, we could talk to you forever. We've run out of time. We'll have to have you back.
Oh, anytime.
We'll have to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Head to careers.barfoot.co.nz for all the info. Thank you, Rachel.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're taking a 2-week break. We've got a few things on next week, then we're heading away for the Easter weekend. We'll catch you after Easter. I hope the Easter Bunny is kind to you. Be safe on those roads. Take care. Talk to you soon.